destroys the Call of the Haunted, its activation, and then direct attacks from both Doubter magicians finishes Watson off. So that will be Watson's second loss in the tournament, but he's not out of it yet. It is a top 64 cut, so if he wins the rest of his rounds, he does have a chance of still making it there. But things are looking even better for Tyler Morris, who is now 6-1, moving on to the 8th round with that record.
Brings into one of the strangest matches I've ever seen. But with our doubles of Michael Watson.
Yes, that is a very peculiar match, but it looks like everything worked out there. Every error was rewound, and the double deck list peculiarity has been resolved.
Well, that's going to do it for round 7. Round 8 will be up next, but while you're waiting for it, we've got a replay of round 4 for you, so don't go away. You're watching the North American World Championship Qualifier. Today, well, in this round, we're in round 4 of 9, and we are bringing back Terrence Kinsley, who is still undefeated since May. He went undefeated 16-0 at the 150th YCS in Columbus.
Yeah, that's quite a feat, especially in a format like this. And looks like his opponent is Bradley Dalton using a Spiritual Beast deck.
Kinsley is still running Necrons, but he's made some advancements since the last time around. A lot of it seems to be a bit in response to the sudden spree of Secret Village of the Spellcasters that was revealed slightly before the event.
Yeah, he's also using the Armageddon Knight, which he didn't see in his deck before.
It's very nice.
Yeah, that's a new addition. So he's able to use Shit-All Dragon along with Far from Male Branch of the Burning Abyss with Armageddon Knight searchable via reinforcement army to deal with opposing problem monsters and problem spell and traps. And then he also has Great Sorcerer of the Necros as a way to combat Secret Village of the Spellcasters, as well as help his combos turn 1 with Necros of Valkyries and Shirt Strategies of the Necros. Besides that, though, Kinsley is playing, let's see, he's geared towards the mirror match, clearly. He has 3 Shared Ride in his main deck, and besides that, the list seems fairly standard. He's including Decisive Armor and Necros of Gungnir.
Decisive Armor has kind of fallen out of favor as of late, hasn't it? I don't think I've seen it in months.
I actually think recently it has spiked in popularity along with Necros of Gungnir. Bradley Dalton's deck is interesting because he's playing 3 copies of Multiple Destruction.
Oh, yeah. That's new from the Dynasty Duels pack that came out last week. You can use it to essentially flip the first turn advantage when players at the cost of a significant number of life points. But also in the Ritual Beast deck, since you add so many cards that you don't necessarily need to your hand, you can get rid of them a lot and just recycle your hand as long as you have the life points.
And we'll see how that works out. Besides that, it doesn't seem like Dalton has many cards against the Necros matchup. He only has 2 copies of Effect Veiler, no copies of Mystique, no other effect position, so, and he pulls off the Multiple Destruction just as we were talking about.
If you go first, you can set a card, or play any one of your 5 cards, and set Multiple Destruction. And then on your opponent's draw phase, you flip your face up, and your opponent is forced to swap their 6-card hand for a new 5-card hand, whereas your current 3-card hand turns back into a 5-card hand, essentially flipping the first turn advantage. Instead of drawing 6, you draw 5, set 2, and spend 2 to get 3 back, and your opponent just loses.
Yeah, that's actually very, yeah. We at first I thought the effect would end up resulting similar to Drastic Drop-Off or something like that, that would just take a card out of Kinsley's hand, but I didn't realize it also refreshed Dalton's hand. So yeah, drawing a fresh 5 is really nice, and it doesn't put a card into Kinsley's graveyard, whereas cards like Drastic Drop-Off or Drop-Off would. Now Kinsley's hand looks... I saw before he had 2 copies of Senju, but now I'm not even sure if he has any copies of... It looks like 2... Oh, okay, he still has a Manju, so that's fine. But, yeah, his hand's still strong enough where I think he'll be fine.
And Dalton seems pretty happy.
Yeah, I think... I missed that he also plays 2 copies of Mind Crush. So I guess against Necros he has 2 effective or 2 Mind Crush, which is not the most dedication to trying to sway the matchup as we've seen before, especially with Drell's deck last round, meaning copies of Mistake, etc. But an effective healer on Manju also just depleting another resource for Kinsley.
Yeah, that's all Kinsley's got.
And now with a full 6, or no, 5 because of the effective
This is an good position for Dalton because Ritual Beast, if you get the right hand, can really just go off and try to beat you.
Yeah.
And in this case, because he used multiple destruction, there's no Necros cards in Kinsley's graveyard. So if his hand is good enough, he could win right now.
Yeah,
without
because
dealing with Valkyries.
Yeah. Let's see what happens. It looks like he summoned Elder to then give an additional summon for Rampengu and use Rampengu to send Paleo.
Yes,
Paleo.
with the extra Rampengu attacks. Looks like.
Yeah.
Yes, Rampengu attacks along with the Elder. And now they're both being banished to bring out Multi-Canahawk. 2 of them go back. And so does the Canahawk. And it brings both Rampengu and the Elder back to the search for any Ritual Beast card. And those get Steeds.
And Steeds destroys your opponent's cards up to the number of Ritual Beasts, or specifically monsters?
Monsters.
Okay.
Monsters. Non-targeting mass monster removal. You can activate at any time. It's pretty good.
Yeah, very strong card, especially alongside the other type of card, Ritual Beast Ambush.
This time, Ulti-Apelio is the card banished for Rampengu, and that lets Dalton send one of Ritual Beast's Tamers from his deck for the graveyard. In this case, he sent Wendy. And they are banished again for Multi-Canahawk. So we go get Ritual Beast Ambush. That's the trap that summons a Spiritual Beast and a Ritual Beast Tamer. 2 more cards. Play.
Well, I don't think Shared Ride is normally that good against Ritual Beast. It seems like if Kinsley might have had that a turn ago, it at least would have mitigated some of them or traded for a card.
So here's an interesting thing that we didn't quite get to on Kinsley's list. We just saw him with Exa, Enforcer of the Necrons in his hand, the level 5 monster. That when tributed you get dragon type from your hand, and when it's banished, you can target one of your other banished Necros cards and special summon that monster. So it's a way to get extra shards after you've already banished them for mirror, and it's also a way to get the Decisive Armor. The Decisive Armor is, I believe it's a dragon.
Yeah, Decisive Armor.
Meanwhile, on the Ritual Beast side of the table, the ambush was flipped, and now Apelio and Wen are joining the field, bringing Dalton up to 4 Ritual Beasts.
Let's see, and he has emergency teleport. But does Kinsley still not have any Necros cards in his graveyard?
He does not. He's got a Manju and a Shared Ride. Canahawk is up next. And I'm getting the feeling here that Dalton doesn't really care how many cards Kinsley draws, because at this point the goal is do 8,000.
Yeah, I believe Shared Ride was actually destroyed by Mystical Space Typhoon. Yeah, so even if Kinsley had a turn before that, I'm pretty sure the Mystical Space Typhoon would have caught it, assuming it was still set. So.
That it would. It's so 3 Shared Ride. We didn't really see a whole lot of that a month ago, but now it's all back.
Yeah, Shared Ride is by far the most popular main deck card in Necros for the Necros Mirror. Duelists have actually been straying away from Maxi for a few reasons. One being the combo with Droll and Lockbird and Artifact Durandal. So, for those of you that don't know at home, basically, in response to Durandal summon, your opponent will draw a card from Maxi, and then in the window, in response to them drawing a card, you can activate Durandal as Chainlink 1, and then chain Droll and Lockbird as Chainlink 2 because it's a quick effect and doesn't have to respond directly to the card drawing. So you can basically have both players shuffle back their hands and draw no cards. So
you're in the lead in that case because you're the one with the 2400 attack monster on the field.
Exactly. And like normally Maxi, or this whole entire format actually, Maxi has just been one of the best cards against Necros because especially in the mirror match, when you catch them when they go Kaleidoscope into Necros of Unicorn to search to try to do a stronger play, and you Maxi them, normally they can get, if you have to stop, you're getting punished by cards like Necros of Trishul, etc. But having that combo with Joel and Lockbird allows you to go work through that. So because of that, I think a lot of duels have been, like, while Maxi was a strong card, it's very scary thinking that, like, the most optimal situation gets punished so badly by Joel Lockbird, because in addition to the 2400, they can keep on special something more, make a whole field, set all their spells, and then shuffle back your hand. So it doesn't matter how many cards you draw off Maxi, because Durandal's going to get rid of them all anyway, because of Joel Lockbird.
Like the whole multiple destruction thing, except it straight up wins you the game instead of just really messing with your opponent.
Yeah, exactly.
And Kinsley had enough after he saw the 5 Ritual Beasts come into play, and we are currently side decking for the second duel with Dalton up 1-0, and Kinsley's 2-event unbeaten streak on the line.
Yeah, it would be very unfortunate that that gets ruined by Ritual Beast here. Another funny thing is that I believe both duelists have Artifact Lancia on their side, and I think they're both bringing it in for this matchup, because Artifact Lancia is quite effective against Ritual Beast, just as a way to stop them from fusion summoning for that turn. So even though Ritual Beast isn't exactly popular enough for a lot of duels to take into consideration when building their decks, the fact that Artifact Lancia, which is so good against the Necros, which is the most represented deck, also deals with Ritual Beast.
You probably also want Royal Decree if you've got it in this particular matchup, because the traps from Ritual Beasts are so devastating.
Yeah, both Danko Seka and Royal Decree are very strong against Ritual Beast because of speeds and ambush.
Yeah, speeds, ambush, and in this case, you got your Mind Crushes and multiple destructions as well.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people are actually playing multiple destruction.
Yeah, this is actually the first list I've seen that uses multiple destruction that isn't a combo deck trying to do the Droll and Lockbird thing or something.
Right.
A little, like, this seems like the most quote-unquote fair way to play multiple destruction. You're just trying to trade your 3 cards for 5 and then reduce their hand by 1. He has no like real weird tricks or anything. So, that's pretty neat.
I like it though. When I check the lists all, but I'm definitely going to check to see how many people are running it.
Yeah. Out of the duels pack battles today, I think that along with Jurgito.
Yeah, Jurgito. Yes, my favorite.
Yeah, I really like how it works with the Heroic Challenger Assault Halberd.
Yes.
And then when Performer Age Trick Clown comes out next set, that whole deck gets a lot stronger.
Yeah, my whole thing with like a lot of these level 4 monster decks is that they aren't playing enough monsters and not enough ways to summon them. So I think Jurgito helps fix that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Things like Teleknights, even if you're playing the Assault Halberd version of it. So you can just go Halberd, Deneb, Jurgito all in the same turn. That still gets you 3 and a lot of damage.
Yeah. As long as making your Xyz or whatever you're trying to do before the battle phase doesn't matter that much, it seems like Jurgito is just a strict upgrade to cards like Geto Kage, which provides you with a similar effect, but not the upside of being able to pump a monster during battle or save yourself during a battle like Jurgito does.
Getting the 1,000 life points is pretty big, too.
Yeah.
Especially given decks like Ritual Beast. And a lot of the times when Necros plays against things that aren't Necros, the goal is to just blow them out of the water before they have a chance to get to their trap cards to stop you. So having extra life points, any extra life points, even if it's from your opponent's Upstart copy, which I notice a lot that people aren't playing anymore.
Indeed.
That's big.
Even though that Bradley Dalton is actually playing 3 copies of Upstart Goblin in his deck, so that's a little funny.
Dalton is, but it's not.
We've started the second duel off with exactly that, Upstart Goblin.
There it is.
And it looks like that Dalton's going into the tank for a man to consider his options.
Yeah, this is definitely a deck where you would want the draw acceleration, especially if you're doing something like running multiple destruction.
Exactly, yeah. If it's that important to get for your turn 1, then you most definitely want to find it as soon as you can. That's the one time that Upstart Goblin I think is really important. And combo strategies are strategies where you really need 1 card to get ahead, I think. Those are the best decks for Upstart Goblin.
Oran Pengu is the first play, Spiritual Beast Oran Pengu, and he goes to his extra deck to banish Ulti Apelio. That'll get the regular Apelio from deck Graveyard. And then he's got Emergency Teleport. Or the Elder.
Yeah, I was very surprised to not see Joe Winston last round playing Emergency Teleport, because that seems like one of the strongest cards in this deck. Just acceleration and card choice.
That's part of why I wanted to see that matchup. Because he went 2-0 so far and defeated David Keener in round 2, who's a previous runner-up at the World Championship qualifier.
And the World Championship itself.
And the World Championship itself that same year. So you figure there might be something there, but I guess it didn't pan out.
Yeah. I think probably with what happened that he ended up removing Emergency Teleport for just more like hate cards against Necros like Mistake, and then and probably tried to just slow them down rather than speed himself up. But then you sacrifice points against the other decks in the meta, like Telling Knight. Actually, game 1 Mistake, even though he caught his opponent with Reinforcement of the Army, it still didn't end up well. So. But then we saw Dalton just here do the...
He searched for a Ritual Beast Ambush and set 3. And now play is up to Kinsley, who's got a pair of Mystical Space Typhoons, but not a whole lot else. The Briannac could be sure. Might be useful.
Yeah. What's it? Spell next to it. Let's see.
2 MSTs, Necros Cycle, Shadow Dragon, Briannac, and Gungnir.
Yeah.
It's an awkward hand.
Yeah. It's strange because normally you'd want to hold your Mystical Space Typhoons for continuous cards that might hinder you, but here, if he uses Necros of Briannac and his opponent has something like Mind Crush, which Dalton plays 2 of, it's actually not the best to hold it, but it looks like he's...
Shadow Dragon makes a successful attack on Cannahawk.
From here, he can actually go search Necros of Shrit. If he wants to go very aggressive, he can add Necros of Shrit, cycle back the Necros of Briannac triggering Shrit, and then search Clawsloss from the Shrit. Use Clawsloss to find Necrosmere, and then activate Necrosmere, banishing the Shrit to summon Gungnir. But he can also banish the Shrit and tribute the Shadal Dragon to summon the Gungnir to destroy another spell and trap.
And this is actually a fairly safe play, because he has both Mystical Space Typhoons. If he starts to make that play, and he sees his opponent flip the ambush to try to get his monsters on board for a Steeds, he can Mystical Space Typhoon both of the other cards in response to the ambush.
Yeah, and what's so good about that is also he doesn't need to tribute the Shadal Dragon at the end, now knowing that his opponent has no background, so he's able to keep the 1900 around.
In this case, Necros Cycle is negated by Solemn Warning. 2 cards are set, and in the end phase, the ambush brings out the Piano and Elder. Play is back to Dalton, and you saw a quick flash of it. Looks like that's the Ritual Beast Bond spell. So even if Mystical Space Typhoon is used, if there are 2 monsters available, you're more likely to check. Second Cannahawk is summoned. And Dalton takes stock of his options to make sure he knows where exactly he is in his play sequence. He needs to make sure he sends the right cards to the graveyard and not the ones that he's going to need to summon later on.
I'm actually surprised to see... actually, no, I guess I'm not surprised, because Solemn Warning is so effective against cards like Dango Second, and Solemn Warning, Mandu or Senju isn't the worst, but Solemn Warning against ritual spells is usually not what you want to do against Necros, because they can banish the ritual spells to find another, so it normally doesn't do much. In this situation, Kinsley wasn't able to do anything because he has the Shadal Dragon in play. But... yeah, that was a key point where Dalton was able to make his Solemn Warning worth a lot more than it normally would be against Necrons. So I think that was pretty optimal by his part. And I was pleasantly surprised.
Cannahawk searched later and contacted back out. We have Moran Pengu sending Ulti Petalfin, or banishing Ulti Petalfin to send a regular Petalfin to the graveyard. And we'll see Rampengu and Elder swap back out. In this case, Cannahawk's going to send that Petalfin right back to the graveyard to go search for. Looks like he's got another ambush there.
I remember when the last set was released, everyone was talking about the Ritual Beast, the Ulti of Paleo, I believe. Is that the one that's similar to Hero Queens?
Ulti Gaia Paleo.
Ulti Gaia Paleo. But in all the Ritual Beast matches I've watched, none of them have actually summoned Gaia Paleo. How often do they summon that?
Summoning it doesn't happen quite as often. It only happens once every few matches or so. However, using it as a monster to be banished for Rampanger happen all the time. Because it's a psychic monster, it adds the ability to send Ritual Beast Tamers to your graveyard, which is a huge addition to the combos.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. See, that's pretty cool. I did not realize that.
Players usually use 2 or 3 of those so that they can banish 1 or 2 of them and then summon another one if they need.
I see. Okay, so that makes sense. So that, yeah, because I was curious because I would see so many in their extra decks and it seemed like they were dedicating slots to cards that they wouldn't normally use, but with the Rampage combo, that makes a lot more sense now.
Yep.
Yeah, 4 backer is pretty scary, although Kinsley does have 2 copies of Missile Stay Typhoon, so it's effectively 2, but we'll see if he flips any during the end phase.
He doesn't, and he picks up that Exa again, which... it's not really what you want to see.
Yeah, I'm very surprised. The X is actually a pretty popular card in this tournament within, I think among a few groups, but it seemed like for so long players were always talking about how they don't want to play cards like Necros or Gungnir, Necros or Decisive Arm because they were so bad to draw on your opener. But then you're playing cards like
Exa.
Yeah, which not necessarily the best.
Kinsley doesn't have that particular issue. He's playing Gungnir and Decisive Arm and Exa and Great Sorcerer and Necros.
Yeah, which I personally think is the way. Not necessarily Exa. I haven't been convinced on that card yet, but I think Necros of Decisive Armor and Necros of Gungnir are both so powerful that I wouldn't see why I wouldn't include them.
What do you think about Dance Princess?
I actually think that Dance Princess is the best level 4 monster to use, because you want a level 4 Necros monster to be able to summon for Secret Village.
Right.
Great Sorcerer is the strongest in terms of combos, because you can do it turn 1, so drawing it is never that poor, because you tribute it away for Valkyris. So basically, anytime you summon Valkyris using Shrit, you can use Shrit to find Bryonic, use Bryonic to find Archmage, then tribute the Valkyris and the Archmage away to draw 2, and then add like Necros or Unicorn to your hand, and then go for there. Whereas Dance Princess takes a little setup because it only adds back banished Necros monsters. But what I like especially about Dance Princess is, one, it beats cards like Naturi Beast, which we've seen actually a lot of so far, especially in Necros decks where they're trying to find good ways to play Naturi Beast. And you can add back your banished Necros of Trishula if it ever gets banished by their Necros of Trishula, just by cycling it away for Unicorn and then getting it back to your hand so you can Trishula them.
So we've got Kinsley, who banished his Brionac and cycled Search for Mirror. Mirror attributed Shurip to put Gungnir on the field. And then Gungnir activated its effect discarding that Extra to destroy 1 copy of Ritual Beast Steeds.
And making some use out of that Exa, getting into the grave.
And the Steed was chained, destroying Gungnir. Lancia, Artifact Lancia, is tributed from the hand, going into main phase 2 to stop Kinsley from searching for another ritual spell. And Brionac was the search for Shurip, which he then discards to search for Necros of Valkyris to try to stay in this one. Now he's only got Valkyris in his hand and the pair of Mystical Space Knife in the set.
But now that Kinsley actually has the Exa in his grave, he's open to a lot more combos with its banish effect, right?
Yeah.
So he could banish the Shrit from his grave, for example, and then later banish the Exa, and then have the Exa special summon the Shrit, which is a lot of value when you think about it, because getting into play and then tribute away to find another Necros warrior gets your engine going again.
That's something that I think a lot of observers doesn't really come forward playing the Necros deck. If you're just watching it, you don't necessarily see exactly how important Shurip is and how good it is to get as many copies of Shurip and tribute them as you can.
Yeah, trying to ride the train of Shurip into Bryonic, into Shurip, into Bryonic, and then having another copy of Shurip effectively for free off of the X seems pretty cool.
We see the Ritual Beast Ambush, put a couple of Ritual Beasts back into play, and at the same time, Canahawk does its thing as well. 6,100 life points for Kinsley, 6,000 for Dalton, having paid for the Solemn Warning. Petalfin, its effect is activated to try to bounce away the face-down card, and Mystical Space Knife is changed to destroy Ritual Beast Bond. And at this point, Dalton does not feel the need to chain it. He's got plenty of good monsters to choose from for fusion material. He's going to send Wen and Petalfin, banish both of them to summon. Probably thinking, can I win right now?
Yeah.
Is that possible? He goes for a Canahawk. Ritual Beast are actually one of the better decks for fighting past Necron. It's so easy to get them off the field in response to their own attack. Monster that's not on the field can't possibly be an attacker, so there's no attack to negate. And if Valkyrus doesn't negate the attack, it does not end the battle phase, and everybody else is free to pile on. Cycles back out for Wen and Pedalfin again. And the card to be searched is Ritual Beast Tamer Lara.
Is Pedalfin not once per turn?
Pedalfin is not once per turn. You can only special summon Pedalfin once per turn, as it is with all of the basic Ritual Beast Tamers.
Okay.
So he bounces the second Mystical Space Typhoon off the field. And this time, Apelio and Elder are being banished to summon its Ganhawk.
Yeah, we can't help but see Kinsley smile a little bit here. I think he realizes the writing's on the wall and Tav's undefeated streak, and especially on camera, but probably not on camera where he expected it to end. You know what I mean? So this is it. But it's cool watching the Ritual Beast deck do its thing effectively, especially beating Necrons without relying on cards like Mistake or just trying to beat them with a single card in order to take over the game so they can't function. But this is like actually what Ritual Beast does best, and it's able to combat with Necrons.
Yeah, it does. And he's going to go ahead and pump everybody up with Pelio. He's getting ready to just pile on as much damage as he can while he's got the chance. Because the thing about Necros is that if you don't actually take them out, if their life points don't physically hit 0, you're still in terrible danger of losing, no matter how down they look.
Yeah, one card in a Necros hand can change everything because you have a graveyard full of ritual spells. If it's a Manju Senju, you can go into Unicore, Kaleidoscope, and search another card, and then keep going from there. You always have to be worried about Necros of Trishula. But Necros is most definitely one of those decks where one card can just change everything. So,
Anahawk train continues. And it's back again. This time, Elder and the others I couldn't see are going to the graveyard to search for another Elder. And now Wen and Ulti, Wen, there you go, there's your Ulti guy PLL.
Yep, and that stops Necros of Valkyrus.
Spiritual Beast, it stops anything. That's the great thing about it.
Oh man.
So you need a Spiritual Beast Tamer, and Ulti, a Ritual Beast Ulti monster.
Oh, okay.
And by their powers combined, they become Heraclino's Crazy Guy, which has just attacked through the Dockers for 3,100, I believe. Possibly more, could be 33.
Yeah, and it looks like that's it.
Kinsley has had enough because his opponent has enough cards in hand to negate all of his possible plays in the next turn, and that'll do it. That is very unexpected. A 2-0 victory by Bradley Dalton and his Ritual Beast deck over Terrence Kinsley and his Necros deck. Well, it was up to 19-0. The 19-0 streak is over, and Bradley Dalton is moving on 4-0 record.
Yeah.
Up next, we've got another episode of YGO Arc 5 for you, and then after that, depending on time, we'll